is up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to be playing with the new Pat McGrath blushes. Yes, I ordered 3 of them. They were the 3 that looked like they would look the best on me. A lot of them are very saturated, and these were the ones that were probably the 3 fairest. Also, I went for kind of a variety that I thought would mix really nicely, so I went with Divine Rose, which honestly, I'm just so glad that that's her like main thing she iterates on right now, because it's such a beautiful kind of like neutral to cool mauvey pink. The next one I got is Fleurtatious, emphasis on the fleur, and Nymphette, and I am going to do a whole face of Pat McGrath stuff because I have not gotten to share a lot of her stuff with you. Like, I have her foundation here and things like that. We haven't dipped into the Divine Rose palette in a minute, so this will all be really fun in that respect. And mainly we'll concentrate on putting as much blush on my face as possible, which is different from other days, not much. So, you know, if you're here for that, you will enjoy this. At the end, I'll give you guys my final thoughts on these, but you know, it's Pat McGrath. They're good, okay? The TLDW is they're good, so let's go ahead and jump in. Okie dokie, so I'm gonna be starting with her primer here. This is the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Primer. I like this. I mainly use it because I feel like I have some duty to do so because it's Pat McGrath. I'm like, well, you know, if I'm gonna put on her foundation and her concealer and everything else, then I owe it to her to put on her beautiful luxurious primer. It does have a scent, but I really like the scent. I wish that it was a perfume I could wear, honestly. It's just very like feminine and romantic and nice, but like it doesn't linger. Not like that NYX foundation I used the other day. And now my skin looks like this. Primed and sublime and perfect. All right, I have the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation in the shade Light 2. This surprised me in a positive way because look how thin it is. It's like watery thin. I thought that this was going to be some kind of very full coverage, photographable, flawless finish matte thing, and it is not. It is just a little bit more coverage than a skin tint, and it's lighter weight and thinner than some skin tints that I've used. Amanda, when she was here over the weekend, said that a lot of times she hears that it doesn't work well on dry skin, but I've always used it with the primer and with my skin prep really freshly done, and I've never had an issue with it. And it just goes totally like velvety and disappears on your skin. It is one of the lightest weight foundations I have ever used, and Light 2 is a perfect shade match for me, I think. And then I'm gonna go in with her concealer, which was a fast favorite for me coming out of the Sephora sale because it is a really, really great texture. It has almost like a smoothing, self-leveling kind of texture, but it also has amazing coverage. And even if I do a really lightweight face of makeup where I'm not super concentrated on perfection and making my skin look flawless, I will still pinpoint conceal with this because it does such a good job of mimicking skin texture, but also gives you such good coverage. Oh no. My favorite concealer brush is all the way over there by White Balance. It's the Rare Beauty concealer brush, and I like it very much. So this is the shade L2, which I guess is similar to Light 2, but as you can see, we are not going for like uber brightening here. We've talked a lot about that in the recent past, that's kind of something makeup's moving away from, is the ultra bright white contrasty under eye thing. We're just mainly making things look like skin. And I like the Pat McGrath, I mean, this is a complexion set, a complexion collection that's been around for a long time, so I think she was sort of ahead of the game on that. She's ahead of the game on a lot of things, honestly. Oh my gosh, the combination of that concealer formula and this brush. If you didn't watch my favorites, this concealer brush is just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just better than the sum of its parts. It's great. Oh, it just airbrushes everything. You know, very lightweight makeup. Hear me out, it's like Italian food. You're not doing a whole lot of flourishes. You're not doing a whole lot of fancy parlor tricks that are, you know, high wire acts in terms of the temperatures of the eggs and the whipping and the whatnot, you know? It's all about the quality of the ingredients. So if you've got great quality to your ingredients, that doesn't necessarily always mean expensive. Just make sure that it's something that you like and that you trust and that you know has got your back. You're gonna end up with a good result with very minimal actual products used on your face and with minimal effort. Actually, the less effort, the better if we're comparing it to Italian food. I am going to do Kelly Stamp's hands, apparently. I'm going to skip powder for now. I just think that this has such a lovely finish on its own. The foundation, it does such a good job that I'm gonna go straight in with my contour and bronzer. I don't have a contour bronzer from Pat McGrath, and I don't know if she makes one, but that is what I'm starting with here. What do I have? Bronzer. Very nice golden bronzer. Nice halfway point, I feel like, between wanting to look, you know, really, really tan and bridging the gap with some blush and giving me a little bit more of like a pale girl tan. Less the Patrick Ta, like, goddess tan. When I wear blue like this, it always makes me want to get really, really like peach in response, or just maybe just really saturated with my blush. But it helps me kind of lean into being pale a little bit better because it brings out the warmth in my skin. Honestly, Pat McGrath, as I use the one Wayne Goss product in this whole selection, but Pat McGrath has been an incredibly and almost entirely positive experience for me. Just getting introduced to her products, you know, because as I always say, I'm willing to pay for a luxury experience as long as I get a luxury experience, and this actually gives me a luxury experience. Little contour moment here. Wayne Goss's contour is the coolest toned. If you are already cool toned and you're looking for something that is going to actually act like a shadow illusion and not be so warm on you that it looks like a bronzer, sometimes these things can be very hard to find. The Wayne Goss is going to be the ticket for you. So we're looking rather incomplete at the moment. That golden bronzer can look kind of stark on my skin without some pink, and we need to bring the pink in, and you know what that means. That means it's time for the actual blushes. So the shades, again, actually, I should show you the packaging. The component is really beautiful, as are all of her components. Very heavy. Her stuff is always really nice and heavy, and it actually opens with a button on the front, which is nice. Very secure. Mirror on the inside, Hiller. So this is Fleurtatious, and it's a really nice, I'm not sure how she describes this, but this is a very nice kind of cool leaning like ballerina pink. Nymphette, which is a little bit rosier and a little bit richer. And then we have Divine Rose, which is a little bit more like towards mauve. And I want to say these two have more of like they might all have the same finish, but I think that Nymphette is the only one where you can almost notice a little bit of a shift to it. It almost has a little bit of like a gold mineral shift to it, but not glitter by any means. So I'm going to go from least saturated to most saturated. So that starts with Fleurtatious. I can't stop saying it like that. It's Fleurtatious, but she spells it like fleur, like flower. I'm going to go with this, my Eco Tools Tapered Powder interchangeable cap here. Also, I should mention that she makes up her own portmanteaus that are just lovely puns. So Pat McGrath Labs Blush Without Caution, Fabulous Flirtations, and Sexquisite Seductions. We love her. Okay, so this is Fleurtatious, and it is a very nice, it's almost like I mean, in contrast to the others, yes, it's cool toned, yes, it's pink, but it almost has a little tiny bit of tan to it compared to the others. Like it's almost a little bit just like dustier. It does, it has just a little bit of like a gray or a beige behind it that's making it a little bit more tan. And I feel like it looks really at home on my skin because that's just kind of a naturally occurring color in my skin. So I can go kind of ape with it, and it's a really great base to then watercolor on top of. And if you're new here, if this is like my first video that you've ever watched, we love blush here. So I mean, anybody who's new might be looking at this and going, that's already enough blush. It's not. I want to enable you to recognize how unlimited your blush capabilities really are. So I think I'm gonna go Divine Rose next, just because it's a little bit purple, and then we're gonna like top off with pink. So again, if you're new here, I tend to kind of watercolor inward. So I start with my bronzer and then my blush sort of here, and then it kind of goes into almost like a target bullseye type shade. That's the one. And this has a really great, I mean, I'm sure that they are different in terms of each shade having more saturation and kind of being more, you know, more color on your brush when you touch into it. These are really great because I feel like I can get enough on the brush that it covers the whole brush and doesn't like stamp on my face. And it's not so pigmented that that's the only time I can, you know, dip my brush in. Like it really does watercolor really beautifully. So if you were really just coming here to see how these blushes perform, I would say that at least the shades that I got are ideal for the way that I apply blush, which is to layer it. See that? I just put it, you know, up here and it's got that lovely coolness to it, the Divine Rose. So I'll swatch them all when I get done because, you know, you layer them and you're like, well, which one's which? And you'll be able to see the differences between them. I'm gonna go with a smaller brush, or should I just go with a, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Duo Fiber in Nymphette, so that we can get a nice, more concentrated. See, you can see that, look. You can see the little bit of like a glitter shift in that one. Not glitter, but a mica shift, you know? Where it catches the light a little bit more and has some reflection, whereas the others were a little bit more matte. And I'm not sure if she intended to do that. We'll look in a second to see if they actually have like, you know, designed different finishes. But I like that because that's going to give you more of a skin finish at the end. I like to use a cream blush on top of powder blushes sometimes for that same effect. So yeah, and everybody, I mean, we could all use Blur, you know? And then once that's all done, because I mean, that is like the most authentic sun-kissed kind of blush bronzer look. And it's so blended because they go on so sheer that you can just kind of keep building them and they don't get weird and they don't stamp anywhere or anything. They're so smooth. And then I will go in with her powder, which is actually just an under eye powder, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like it does a really good job of picking up and moving things around where it just, you know, selectively like that. And it's going to blend the edges of everything and make it all look a little bit less severe. Like, it shouldn't add coverage, but it kind of does. And I think that that's why this comes in several shades, is because she's aware of that. So I got the fairest shade here. I honestly feel like this is just like a really high-end version of my Well People Bio-Based Baked Brightener. They're so similar. So if like this is way out of your price range, just get that one. It's at Target, you know? It's like $20. But it's just such a good product to have on hand for just diffusing all the edges and everything. Like it just lightens everything up without adding a lot of coverage. It's just a nice finished look. So now I will zoom through this eye look. You guys have seen me play with the Divine Rose palette. This is the Mothership 7 Divine Rose palette, and it is her most beautiful one in my opinion, which is why I own it. But I'm gonna zoom through this. You guys have seen me play with this enough times, and then we will jump to like swatching and everything like that. Basically just turned myself into a whole ass Divine Rose. I used Divine Rose on my eyes, I used it on my lips, like the actual shade Divine Rose, and I also helped out a little bit with the Hindash palette because it is the best for sourcing like super reliable, incredibly blendable mattes. Oh, I hate the framing on this shot. I hate it. Now it's just all white behind me, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so we have Fleurtatious, Divine Rose, and Nymphette. I went in really, really heavy on the Fleurtatious swatch because it's the most sheer out of all of them, and I think that that's what makes it just so easy to work with as that first layer. And then we have Divine Rose, which, you know, I think she intends to be kind of her like universal shade, and I can see why. I mean, it's just got a little tiny bit of everything in it, but I love it because it's got that great kind of like cool toned mauvey base note to it, just a little bit of purple. And then you can see that Nymphette is quite pink in comparison to the rest of them. Like this one's almost like a dusty beigey pink, and this one's almost like a purple pink, and this one's more of like a peachy pink. And it also, at least to my eye, is the only one that has even like a hint of iridescence to it. Individually, the blushes are $38. You can get all of them, all 9 of them, for $284. That's more of, I mean, you know, either you're a big fan or you're a makeup artist. And I did the Blush Without Caution Trio for $96. Okay, I'm not losing my mind. All of them are demi-matte that I got except for Nymphette. Nymphette does have a peach shift to it, she says. The other ones are all demi-matte except for, wait for it, Desert Orchid and Nude Venus. So, the description, I don't have my glasses, we're just gonna wing it. Layerable, luxurious, legendary. Blush like an icon. Pat's most requested launch ever, the instantly indispensable Divine Blush creates a feather-light, long-wearing rush of couture color in demi-matte and satin finishes. Hang in there with me, guys. Ultra-fine powder pigments deliver sensuously soft, brilliantly blendable application. All 9 shades build effortlessly from sheer to subversive. I love it. Sheer to subversive. Not sheer to like full saturation, sheer to you're going to be a disruption to the people around you. Ensuring a wondrous wash of customizable color tailored to every skin tone and type, embossed with radiant roses and sublime sun rays. This new classic is the answer to the eternal question, who makes you blush? Accentuate your cheekbones. To set the look afterward, apply Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Setting Powder in targeted areas, further perfecting your complexion and eliminating shine. So the artistry tips, she actually recommends doing it the way that I did it and finishing with that powder to kind of blend the edges. And then she also has the silk to silk method, which is blending over powder. So you can do it both ways. And I have to say, they do lend themselves beautifully to just a really nice blended finish no matter what. Esto! Who wants to talk about final thoughts on these? Pat McGrath has never disappointed me, and this goes right underneath that umbrella. All of her powder formulas are lovely. And I don't mean just, I mean, they're like transcendent. They do something different and new, because if you're gonna pay this much money for something, it has to pretty much put itself on. And her formulas put themselves on. I will never understand really, really professional formulas actually being more difficult to use. I understand that that means that they're longer wearing in some cases and they have like, you know, greater pigment impact. But Pat McGrath manages to somehow do it all and make it extremely user-friendly. They're $38 a piece, and actually the amount of product that you get is 9.7 grams or 0.34 ounces. That's a pretty generous amount of product, but you can save $6 per blush if you do her pack of 3. It's $96 for all 3, or for 3 of your choice, I guess. I am so happy that I did that, because this is almost like a customized palette of the best blush formula I could have asked for. I mean, the best powder blush formula I could have asked for. Like, call me when Pat McGrath puts out a cream blush, because you know it'll be the best cream blush you've ever used. But this is just, I mean, look at it. Look at my face. It's really, really nice. It just looks really good. It builds so beautifully, and it builds to a really lovely amount of saturation. It blurs on the skin. It's still translucent enough that you can see some of my freckles and my own skin's color through it. And I feel like I could just keep putting it on and putting it on and putting it on, which you know is my dream with a blush. But also, the colors, Duke. The colors. The shades are so nuanced. They're so beautifully informed, and you know Pat McGrath is inclusive. I mean, everything about this release just says, come one, come all, please enjoy the wonder that is a fantastic blush formula. And if this is way outside your price range, maybe split it with a friend kind of thing, like, you know, go for 3 friends and each of you gets a blush, or you can wait for one of her sales. She does quite a lot of sales, but This gets my full-throated endorsement, as do pretty much all of her formulas, but you guys know blush straight to my heart. It also means that my expectations could have meant that the reality was actually that much worse, because I was so much anticipating enjoying these, but they're perfect. They're just perfect, and they are the prettiest colors of blush. Like I always say, like, oh, at the drugstore, a lot of times the formulas will be really pretty or whatever, and you can really get away with not paying so much for a beautiful formula, but it's usually the colors that you kind of have to compromise on, because they'll just be squarely in the middle of like a pink, a peach, a bronze, a whatever. And these are like, you have to get a full mouthful to be able to explain what the colors are. And for me, that means that they actually have a really unique place in my collection, but also they sort of transcend my collection, because I do look at so many other formulas and I say, okay, the color is worth the formula being not exactly perfect for my skin, or vice versa. The formula is so easy to work with that I can layer it with something else to make the color exactly what I want. But these meet me exactly where I need them to, and I just get excited to use them. I could use one of them and just, you know, let that be it, but using 3 all together is my dream. It's wonderful. And I do love that all of her stuff, even though she has such a huge collection, this Divine Rose theme and her having kind of dialed in this neutral to cool purple undertone-y kind of like rosy color that works on a lot of skin tones. I'm not gonna say it works on everybody, but she does have something for everybody, but everything being kind of Divine Rose centric. As you can see, I went with the gloss, I went with the blush, I went with the eyeshadow. It all has this intelligence, this just like artistry built into it, you know? And it's worth my money all day long. Pat McGrath has me hook, line, and sinker. So yeah, I could not love these more, honestly. I hope that you guys found this valuable. And if you got any of the other shades or even these shades, let me know what you think about them, because I am very much enjoying them. I apply these things, guys, with $7 brushes, okay? I do love my EcoTools brushes. I just wanna say that even though I'm a luxury lover, I do kind of get a bargain where I can, and I do love my, you know, affordable synthetic drugstore brushes, and a formula like this, I truly believe you can't go wrong. So those are my thoughts on the Pat McGrath blush release. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you do want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, guys, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.